What's up, guys? Our September Patreon rewards are finally available. If you're interested in picking up a full art Brainstorm or Muldrotha the Gravetide, you can check out all the details at patreon.com/itresolves. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Crack-A-Pack series. Today we are opening up a pack of Core Set 2019, obviously a relatively new set. It's about to actually rotate out of Standard, but still quite a lot of awesome stuff in this one, so I'm pretty stoked about it. I think the last two core sets have actually been pretty strong, and so I actually enjoy opening this one quite a lot. Also, really quick, two things, bit of housekeeping. The latest episode of the Crack-A-Pack series came out like on Wednesday. We had some tech issues, things like that. I was also out of town, so I do apologize for the late upload there, but we're back. We're on schedule. No big deal. Also, we have a Instagram giveaway going on right now. If you're interested in the Azusa Lost But Seeking full art proxy, you can check out the post for the details and stuff like that, but we got like a week-long giveaway there. And so if you're interested, please feel free to sign up, and good luck to all of you. But let's jump into this pack. Of course, we're going to go through this, as we always do, as if we are drafting the set. So we'll hopefully be able to figure out what our first round draft pick would actually be. As such, we'll go through every single card. So our first one here, Active Treason. It's a sorcery for 2 and a red. Gain control of target creature until the end of the turn. Untap that creature and it gains haste until the end of the turn. Interesting card. It's an aggressive card, so it steals the creature. It incentivizes you to swing with it right away. Hopefully deal some damage to the opponent. The downside to it is they just get it back at the end of the turn, and normally that's not the greatest thing because they're just going to untap with it, swing back, and then the net gain isn't necessarily a ton. It's still an aggressive card. It's still a perfectly usable 3-drop card in just like a red, maybe red-black style deck. But the real synergy comes from being able to sacrifice that creature after you've used it. And so, again, focusing on that red-black strategy, there's a lot of synergies, even just within this core set, that actually focuses on, and it's actually really, really good. However, I like to have those payoffs or those sack outlets before pulling the Active Treason. I don't think it's a reasonable pick necessarily right off the bat. But if you end up in that strategy, very, very good card, definitely one worth picking up. Knight's Pledge is an enchant creature for 1 and a white. The enchanted creature gets +2/+2. Really straightforward card. Not a super exciting card in my opinion. I don't love enchant creatures, as most of you guys know. It opens you up for that 2-for-1 that just feels super, super bad. So I avoid them as much as possible unless I really, really have a good reason to pick them up. And in this case, obviously I don't. It's not worth it first pick. Uncomfortable Chill is an instant for 2 and a blue. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-0 until the end of the turn, and then you draw a card. A little bit of a, like, I won't say a sleeper card, because it's not like it's a game-winning card, but a bit of a card that I didn't think was very good, and then turned out to be okay. It blanks the opponent's creatures for the most part for a turn, and then also replaces itself. And any card that gives you a positive effect for your side of the field and replaces itself can't be too bad. We see that with Befuddle in a lot of sets because that's just been reprinted a lot recently. Does very similar in that it draws you a card and then negatively impacts the opponent. And that's great. I mean, it's fine. It's an okay card to run in a 3-drop slot. Definitely not a first pickable card, though. There's just no way I would ever pick this first pick. Greenwood Sentinel is a 2/2 for 1 and a green, and it does have Vigilance, so it doesn't have to tap while it's attacking. This is one of the cards that actually rewards you for having a lot of enchant creatures. So, excuse me, being able to stack a lot of powerful enchantments on top of this, swinging in with it, and then being able to leave it up on defense as well. Really, really great. But again, you are opening yourself up. If they remove it for any reason, you're losing a couple of cards, not just a singular card. And that's just extra value for the opponent, which is never a good thing. But as a 2-drop, it's actually a really solid card. It's not amazing, but it's a bear with some upside, and that's great. So far, unfortunately, this is actually the card I'm most interested in, but obviously hoping we'll find some better stuff later in the pack. Invoke the Divine is an instant for 2 and a white. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 4 life. Very classic white card. We see this all the time. Disenchant is a very similar effect. This obviously has the added bonus of giving you 4 life, which is great. But this is very much a sideboard effect. We talk about that a lot with artifacts and enchantments hate. Unless you're in a set where artifacts or enchantments are like a very, very large theme, it's just not worth it to mainboard these. You're not going to run into them that often. Artifacts arguably more so than enchantments you're going to see, but still not a lot. And so you may find you just don't have a target for it. If you don't, it's not worth running main deck. So in my opinion, definitely a good pickup late in the pack if you happen to be in white, but it is reserved mostly for the sideboard. Skeleton Archer is a 3/3 for 3 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. A lot of times I found when drafting this set, this ended up being 1 damage straight to the opponent. There were occasions where you could maybe stack some damage after combat, or maybe pick off like a really, really just early game creature that might have stuck around for whatever reason. But it's actually not a terrible card. It's a little bit lower statted, obviously, at 3/3 for 4. But this is a core set. We're not looking for crazy, crazy powerful stuff except really in that rare slot. And so, honestly, so far, I think this is the pick now. Still not great, but we are still early in the pack. Hopefully we'll get something a little better later. Thornhide Wolves is a 4/5 vanilla creature for 4 and a green. I found this to be mostly just an okay 5-drop. It's a vanilla creature, so it's not really doing too much. However, it is definitely a powerful card. I mean, it's something that the opponent's going to have to deal with because very quickly it can end the game if they just don't have anything powerful on their side of the board. So it's not bad, but it's much more of a curve consideration pick. And because it's a vanilla creature, there's not a huge effect with this. It's not something that you really need to pick up early. You can usually pick this up pretty late in the pack and be perfectly fine. Pegasus Courser is a 1/3 for 2 and a white. It has flying, and then whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gets flying until the end of the turn. This is actually so far the best card in my opinion by a long way. I love this card. I think it's a really, really good thing to have in a like Boros style aggro deck. It just allows you to be much more aggressive than you normally would be, especially if the opponent just doesn't have any flyers. You're able to take one of your creatures, give it flying, as well as keep this on the offense, and just keep swinging in as much as possible. Absolutely perfect for that kind of strategy, and because it's a 3-drop, you can get it out pretty early, which just means you'll start flying over the top and dealing tons of damage. So really, really like this, especially in combination late game with maybe a big bomb or something like that. You can very quickly finish a game. So definitely so far the pick in my opinion. Smelt is an instant for 1 red, destroy target artifact. Very, very simple card. And we already talked about artifact and enchantment hate, much more reserved for the sideboard. This is a little more focused in that it only hits artifacts, but it is instant speed and it is cheaper. So that's obviously worth considering if you happen to be in red and white. Maybe you have to weigh that against Invoke the Divine. Personally, though, this is a great sideboard card. If you know you're up against artifacts, you just side this in. You know you're going to be able to hit something with it. And it is, again, really, really efficient for only 1 mana at instant speed. So very easy to leave up that and hopefully deal with some crazy artifact bomb on the opponent's side of the field. Inferno Hellion is our first uncommon. It's a 7/3 for 3 and a red. Very, very cheap casting cost for that power, but it does have trample. But at the beginning of the end step, if Inferno Hellion attacked or blocked this turn, you do have to shuffle it back into your deck. Still, because of the high power, this is, in my opinion, very worth it to run. A lot of times you may find it just trading off with something if you can play it in the late game. But against a very light board, creature-heavy board or something like that, you might actually be able to deal a lot of damage with this, and that's great. Especially if you can pick up maybe multiples of this. They're going to be trading off with a lot of stuff. They can't take 7 damage every single time. So, in my opinion, this is actually a pretty good card. I like the Pegasus Courser a lot as well, and arguably you could say these might be close in power level, just because obviously this the Hellion just gets shuffled back into your deck. It's not necessarily ideal, and it's going to get traded off with some lower power stuff. However, that trample means it's still dealing some damage, and I like that a lot. So far, I think that is the pick in my opinion. Pegasus Courser, though, still pretty good. Very much worth considering if you're into the white decks more so. Declare Dominance is a sorcery for 3 and 2 green. Target creature gets +3/+3 until the end of the turn. All creatures, able to block it this turn also have to. So, really interesting card. It's probably going to kill a number of things on the opponent's side of the field, but I don't know how good it is. I never actually saw this card played, surprisingly. I did draft this set a good bit. I feel like it's probably pretty good. It powers up one of your creatures pretty heavily. A +3/+3 boost is pretty great. And it's going to be able to trade off with a bunch of other stuff. Depending on what your opponent has, it's going to be able to deal with probably maybe up to 3-4 creatures, depending on how powerful they are, obviously, and how powerful the creature is that you're putting this on. But it is very board dependent. Obviously, you're going to have a pretty sizable board to make this really, really worth it. You can swing with other creatures. They can't be blocked, obviously, in that instance. And so in that case, you're going to be able to get in for a lot of damage, but at that point, you are dependent on having that creature mass out there. So I'm going to lean towards the Hellion. That might be an incorrect pick, honestly. I don't know in this case. I didn't have the opportunity to play with this card. Plague Mare is a 2/2 for 1 and 2 black. It can't be blocked by white creatures. And when it enters the battlefield, creatures your opponent control get -1/-1 until the end of the turn. Now, this is a really, really good card. A lot of times what you'll find is, because you're playing this so early on turn 3, ideally, you're going to be able to deal with a lot of tokens or a lot of really low ground threats. And then if you happen to be against a white deck, this is just going to be like a beating for them because they can't block it. And so obviously you're just going to keep swinging in with it as much as possible, deal a lot of damage. I really like this. If you find a way to recur it, you can deal a lot of damage to creatures that way. Really, really cool. I think it's a better pick than the Hellion. It's a little bit more reliable in terms of you're not as dependent on your opponent's blocking or anything like that. This is just an enter the battlefield trigger. It's going to happen regardless. So I kind of like this better. It's a bit of a safer pick in my opinion. Inferno Hellion's still very, very good though. And again, worth considering for sure. And then our rare, Hungering Hydra, is a 0/0 for X and a green. It does enter the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Can't be blocked by more than one creature. And whenever Hungering Hydra is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So this is definitely the pick. This is just a big swingy bomb. The great thing about this, it scales. It has X in the casting cost, anything like that you have to consider. You could play it at multiple points during the game, and it's potentially always going to have relevance. That's really, really important. And in this case, it is just a huge, huge bomb. Not being able to be blocked by more than one creature, also really big, because if you just throw it out there with like 6 counters on it, let's just say, it's going to be difficult for them to actually trade off in battle. They're going to have a removal spell for it. And they're not always going to have one. So honestly, this is a pretty easy and safe pick. We do have one foil here. Make a stand instant for 2 and a white. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and indestructible until the end of the turn. Very good combat trick. Also a very good protective spell. However, it just doesn't beat out the Hungering Hydra. You're looking for bombs early on, and that Hungering Hydra is definitely the pick. And then Timber Gorge, tap land that taps for both red and green. Again, great for fixing, but does not beat the Hydra. In my opinion, that's just a very, very clear pick. We did have a couple of good ones in here, though, and so please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. We really do appreciate the feedback, but if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below, and as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next Crack-A-Pack episode.